All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us with the VetFran interview series once again. Today I have Eric Jacobs. He's the Chief Development Officer for Marriott Select Brands in North America. That encompasses 10 of Marriott's hotel brands. His professional career includes 30 years of experience in the hospitality and restaurant business with extensive experience in hotel real estate, franchising, market planning and analysis, operations, and branding. He's worked for both private and publicly held companies, including Hilton International, Intercontinental Hotels Group, and Tarsadia Hotels. So Eric, thanks so much for being here. We're glad to have your expertise.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to talk with you more about Marriott and kind of more about the hotel industry in terms of franchising. I kind of want to start with the fact that Marriott's got a very strong company culture. So how does this culture overlap with helping veterans become business owners?
Well, I think it starts with our chairman, who's a veteran himself, right? Mr. Marriott himself was a Navy man, so and a number of our senior leaders, military backgrounds as well. But there's some just simple adages and guiding principles that the company talks about. I mean, our common goal is to be the world's favorite travel company. But how do we support that? We recognize that hotels are giant boxes. They're very nice, location matters, but it's really about the associates. And if there's one statement at the company that drives everything we do, it's Mr. Marriott, or it's actually his dad's mantra, which is if we take care of our associate, the associate then will in turn take care of the guest, and then they'll keep coming back. So we tend to be very much an associate driven company. It drives everything that we think about in terms of whether we support in terms of careers. I know Mr. Marriott is very proud that more than 50% of our general managers in our system today came out of the hourly ranks. And so this is a business about hard work, learning the business. It's about hospitality. It's a love for serving others. And if you have that, Marriott's a great place to work and a great place to launch your career. It's really, it's also folded into one of our, what we refer to as the Committee for Excellence, which is really a four-pronged approach. And this is where VetFran comes in as part of that. But there are four pieces. One is, how do we make sure that our hotels are open and welcoming to all kinds of guests with different backgrounds and such? How do we ensure that we provide great opportunities for folks to grow within the ranks, no matter their backgrounds? If they want to work hard and be a great leader, there's a place for Marriott. Thirdly, how do we engage on the procurement side and the supplier side with a diverse group of owners and folks? So we have a team that's focused on growing supplier diversity. And then fourth, which is a piece that I run, which is development diversity. And development diversity is not all about attracting women or African American. It's really about attracting folks like veterans into our business who don't realize that the hotel business is something that they can invest in, that they can actually own their own hotel. I know going back 30 years ago, Marriott probably was just thinking about franchising. So really franchising in the hotel business is relatively a new thing. Over the last 30 years. And so even when I was in hotel school, the option, I was like, well, I'll get through college and I'll become the general manager of the Marriott Marquis, right? That was the goal. And then it wasn't until I was 10 or 15 years into my career, I'm like, wow, now I figured out I could actually own one of these, and how might that happen? So I think, whether it's Marriott or one of our competitors today, their primary growth vehicle here in North America is through franchising. And I think that's a surprise to many folks. And so we generally think about Marriott and our business model. We have basically two customers, ones who sleep in the beds. Those are our, guests who stay with us there. And then we have this whole other group, which is our owners, investors, our franchisees, that got to build these hotels, own these hotels, and provide the beds for those guests to sleep in. So we really talk about partnership and providing the right tools for people to come into the business, and how do we help you provide those investment vehicles through one of our 30 Marriott brands, depending on the market and the location and what you want to invest in. How do we provide that opportunity for veterans if they indeed want to step into this world? So.
Yeah, and it sounds like, having a franchise component to your business has definitely helped you to build a more diverse, pool of franchisees and things like that. So,
We couldn't grow without them.
yeah, exactly. And when we talk about bringing franchisees into the system, one of the biggest, I'm sure, concerns in terms of finding qualified franchisees is the cost of owning and operating a hotel. It's a large investment, often in the $2 to $6 million range, based on varying factors. So how can a prospective franchisee, a veteran, go about raising the necessary capital to participate in an investment like that?
Sure, yeah. So if you think about our Fairfield Inn, which is kind of our smallest, leanest operating hotel, it's probably our first level of investment for many folks, and that total investment can run anywhere from $6 to $10 million. If you think about how the lenders are going to think about it, you're going to need probably 20 to 25%. Let's set aside that we're in a pandemic, but in a normalized world, 20 to 25%. Maybe even 30% equity. So if we're talking about, let's just say, an $8 million total investment, I'm going to have to go have at least, right, $1.6 million to $2 million of equity. I can tell you today that very few of our franchisees are the sole owner and the sole equity provider in any given deal. So it's good to know, because what we've all learned is the term OPM, other people's money. And what you learn is about raising capital is part of the art of the deal. And how that happens could be friends, it could be business associates, it could be family, but you're going to need that equity in order to enter into the Marriott level. Does that mean that you can't get into the hotel business without that? No, of course not. There are independents out there, and there are smaller hotels and smaller equity investments, and many of our partners started that way. Many of our partners today started off with owning a small independent hotel or a small regional brand or something like that. And as they built equity and knowledge and net worth, then they kind of moved our way. I will admit that Marriott is not the least expensive initial investment in the hotel franchise world. But that doesn't mean we can't work with you. The real art of any of the real estate is really about raising your equity. And so whether you have it all on your own, most folks don't. Most folks go out and find partners. There are also mortgage companies or consultants that actually specialize in what I'll refer to as private placement. So if you have a great idea and a hotel opportunity and you need to raise capital, there are folks there that can help you raise that capital. By you writing a good business plan, location. We believe the right franchise also helps to raise capital. People are more apt to invest in a deal with a Marriott name than an independent name, let's say, or no name at all, right? And so there's value in that. But really, it's about how do I go raise that equity? And I want to just say that no, I don't know there's a deal. Even our most wealthiest owners don't put all the equity in by themselves. They use friends and families and partners, and that's part of the art of the deal. So.
Right, and one of the things that I wanted to discuss as well in terms of making that deal is, with a high investment franchise like this, there are a lot of things to consider and there are a lot of moving parts. What does Marriott do in that process to kind of help facilitate? Is there lending relationships? What does the company offer to a prospective franchisee who's trying to pull those resources together?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that I would always recommend, we host 2 to 3 times a year a development forum at Marriott. There's no charge to it. It's just your time. It's usually a day and a half, almost 2 days. Maybe the first half day is spent learning about Marriott culture, the brands and everything. But the second day is focused on hotel development 101, how to identify a site, how to identify brokers. And we bring brokers to these classes. They talk about what they can provide you, both on brokers that are selling hotels or mortgage brokers. We bring in somebody from the SBA to help owners walk through how does an SBA loan happen, what kind of equity would I be required, what are the lending limits, what kind of size of deal. So we try to build this development day as a resource, and it's it's drinking through a fire hose for many people, but it gives them the basics to how do I start thinking about what's a good market? How do I get a site? How do I start to network with there are brokers, for those who don't know, who just specialize in the sale of hotels, right? Just like there's people who focus on homes, there are people who just sell hotels. And so how do I network those communities? We sometimes bring some of them in for you to meet. We bring in, like I said, lenders, and then we leverage our relationships, right? And Marriott does have the ability in the right circumstances, and we try not to make it a one size fits all, because everybody's equity needs or capital needs are different. And so we do provide veterans as well as other diverse groups incentives, whether it's reduced franchise fees, royalty fees. Sometimes in the right instance with the right group, could we help with a lender where we might actually provide a guarantee on your loan to get your deal going. There's lots of tools that Marriott might use. Again, location, net worth of the group, credit worthiness of a group. We look at it just like a bank might, but we can and will and do on a regular basis to try to help folks get going in this business. And so there's lots of ways we can provide some incentive, but I think the biggest thing we do is try to provide that education. And if we can help you kind of to map out the differences between a hotel as a real estate class versus a office versus residential, and help you to understand the moving parts, and the more educated you become, you start to understand the basics to how I might approach this. So then how do I go raise the capital, and then how do I start to engage with lenders? And we certainly have that. We are an approved franchisee or franchisor of the SBA, so we are already qualified. So if you go to start to talk to a lender and utilizing an SBA loan, Marriott's going to be an approved franchisor for you. So, and that's not, by the way, a given, right? You have to, with the SBA, you have to kind of prove yourself, and there's certain things that they need in our agreement. We've had to adjust over the years to make sure that an SBA loan would be, our franchise agreement would be conforming with an SBA loan. So let's put it that way. So we review that every year with them to make sure we're compatible. So lots of resources. And then I always encourage, there's a lot, I think one of the great things about our industry is we tend to gather and we tend to share. And you're going to find, while it's a big industry, we have lots of owners and franchisees. And that's the great thing. There's so many that started off with a mom and pop hotel. Well, they're the first that led a hand or to meet with folks to share their experience and how they got going in the business. And so I think that the Marriott owner and franchisee group is special that way. And I can think of a dozen owners that if I had a new prospect that wanted to talk to somebody besides the franchisor and hear their story and what they needed to do to get into the business, we have a lot of owners and franchisees that share their business models to help folks get going. And I think the last piece I might add is we've created a couple of different training programs, again, depending on a person's business background and their, they may, infrastructure, if they have an existing business of some sort. We have different training programs that we can help them to become a great Marriott owner and franchisee. And if they're not quite ready to run the hotel themselves, or they need a few years to get underneath their belt, we've identified a couple of Marriott management partners, whether it's Marriott ourselves managing it for you, or if you'd rather do it as a franchise and partner up, we have a few of our franchise partners, management companies that you can work with. They'll do a short-term agreement to help you get onto your feet, help you understand how to be a great franchisee, and then at the end of 2 or 3 years, when you're ready, we kind of turn the keys over and they step out of the deal. And we've partnered with them with a very specific focus of growing the next generation of franchisees, owner-operators, not just a franchisee who has to hire a third party. So we're doing what we can to support you in a lot of different ways, not just financially, but also from a training and operations perspective.
Yeah, I mean, veterans enjoy a great sense of community while they were serving, and they, continue to enjoy that as former service members. And so it's great to hear that Marriott kind of has that community aspect as well among current owner operators. And to finish up, one of the things I wanted to ask about when we were talking about, Marriott making deals with veterans and these groups, I imagine that those kinds of things are for very well qualified franchisees. So what can a franchise candidate do in your eyes to kind of stand out? What should they come prepared with in order to be best prepared to get involved in your franchise opportunity?
Yeah, well, I think again, I'll start with education. Educating yourself on the business itself. Come to the table with a good business plan thought out. And again, I've got a team of 30 that are across the country. Most of our franchisees don't own a hotel beyond 3 hours of their home, so stay close. Focus. Because if Matt, what's your hometown? Where did you grow up?
I'm from Boise, Idaho.
Yeah, so you probably know more about Boise than I do, right? So stick to
I
the area
probably.
that you know, right? So I always recommend that to a franchisee, first-time franchisee. Keep it close to home. It's a big investment. The hotel business is a high-touch business, whether it's with the manager, whether it's with the associates or the guests. So you're going to want to be a part of that. So just keep it close. Come with a good business plan, well thought out, and we have resources to help you put that together, whether it's hospitality specific consultants that can help you run a pro forma, those kinds of things. It's always best if you can think about that capital and the equity that you're going to need. If you can come to the table knowing that you've got some of this raised and those kinds of things, that's always helpful. And depending on your background, an open mind about whether you can be an owner operator, or for a short term, you become an owner with a third party operator until you're up and ready. But I think again, strong business plan. The hotel business, like most business, location is important. So pay attention to what drives demand and access to the site. But engage with us. This is a business of engagement and sharing and knowledge and those kinds of things. And I think as folks, as veterans start to think about our business, you'll find that we want to help people, whether it's a Marriott or the industry as a whole. We just tend to, it's part of that hospitality we all have to serve each other. And so we tend to lean in to try to help folks, kind of find the American dream. And I've watched hundreds over my 30-year career working with first-time hotel owners, who want to, folks who want to step out of their, I'm tired of running, 10 restaurants and I want to get out of the restaurant business. I want to go into the hotel business, and they make that move. And it's been a joy for me to work with folks to kind of help them to find that dream and see that path for hotel ownership. And if it's owner and operator, great, even better.
Well, and as we've seen, the commitment runs pretty deep within your company at hiring veterans, at the, the hotels themselves as well. So,
that's another great place to start. A lot of our owners today are folks who used to be, within our ranks at Marriott. Even our former CEO, Bob McCarthy, when he retired about 5 or 6 years ago, all he wanted to do was go build his own hotel. Of course, he didn't need Marriott to run it because he'd been running all of Marriott. So, he's a franchisee. So, yeah, we have a lot of examples like that. And, Marriott's another great place to start your career if you want to learn the business, learn it from the best, and then leverage that into your, if you want to ultimately reach a goal of, owning your own franchise.
Right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great to hear more about Marriott, as well as learn some more about, the best ways to get involved in a higher value franchise like that. So thank you so much for being here.
Matt, we'll agree to keep you up to date and maybe post on VetFran when we're having when we're having our next development forum and things like that, and certainly invite any of your constituents to join us. We try to keep the classes about 30. But if we get demand, then we'll, instead of having one in a quarter, we'll do 2 a quarter, whatever that takes. So it's part of our commitment.
Absolutely. Well, anyone who views this video, we'll keep them updated on what's going on with your development conferences. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.